Hi, it's Olivia, and for today's video I will just be sharing my thoughts as I read Dune by Frank Herbert and my thoughts after watching the movie adaptation. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm in the same boat as a lot of other people right now wanting to read the book before we see the movie. I've had this copy for a really long time now. I was supposed to buddy read this a few years ago and I never did, and so here we are now, very typical. It's July 2021 and there is, I believe, one movie trailer that is dropped and I've avoided it. I haven't seen it. When I glance at the table of contents, it looks like it's broken up into 3 books, and so that's probably how I'll break up this video. I'll share my thoughts. I'll check in like 3 times. So I think that's it. I'm ready to get started and I hope I enjoy it. Okay, quick update before I even really start. I'm going to be reading with the physical book, but I realized I had a credit through Audible, so I checked out Dune right now, and
by Frank Herbert. Read for
let's
you
listen.
By Simon Vance. With John Alleyne, Scott Brick, Kent Broadhurst, Alan Burrows, Orla Cassidy, Jason Culp, David R. Gordon, Jamie Heinlein, Byron Jennings, Patricia Kilgariff, Ileana Kadushin, Ewan Morton, Scott Sowers, and Oliver Wyman.
I've never listened to an audiobook with a cast that large. I am amazed right now. I'm so glad that I decided to pick this as an audiobook because I've never listened to an audiobook like that. I'm actually really excited to be following along with this now. So I finished book 1. I don't know why I'm recording right now. It's kind of late, but right off the bat, my first thought was, oh, we get everybody's perspective. Say we're in a scene and there's multiple characters and I think, oh, we're following Paul for this little bit. There'll be another character in the scene and then we get their thoughts. I'm like, oh, okay. From what I can gather is the Harkonnens have set up kind of this elaborate trap for the Atreides family who is now coming onto the planet Arrakis or Dune, and part of that trap is the use of the Atreides family doctor, Dr. Yue, and he's a traitor working with the Harkonnens. But then also it seems that the Atreides family, the Duke specifically, is aware of the trap that he's walking into and he's trying to like outmaneuver them. There's a lot of like political intrigue and scheming and stuff going on right at the start. And I wanted to mention this one scene. They have this dinner party. This dinner party is made kind of awkward by the fact that everybody's fake. Everybody has their own little secret goals and political reasons for being there, and they're trying to bait one another and you know, scope out everybody and see what did that person really mean. And it's the way if I were at this dinner party, I would have asked to be excused and to take my food to my room. Paul, our main character, and his mom, Jessica, the word I'm going to use to describe them is very aware, specifically Paul. And she's noting all the little details that she's seeing at the dinner party, and she goes at one point, she even says, he's faking uncertainty. That's how fake they are, that they fake being uncertain. But at least it wasn't the dinner party from The Office.
You made everything alright.
But anyway, something else that I found interesting so far was the scarcity of water on this planet. I think even Paul mentioned this during the dinner. He was quoting something to kind of come back at this one guy, and he mentioned drowning. And I think someone else there, like, the idea of drowning was just unheard of. The idea of someone dying in that way with an excess of water, because that is the opposite of what they have on that planet. And just how much they have to retain as much moisture as they can, and they're very frugal with it. You know, this family, the Atreides family, has outside their mansion has like 20 palm trees, and it takes all this water for them, and people pass it and give looks to it because they look at it and they see how many people that could support rather than trees. By the end of book 1, the Duke has died, and I gotta say the way he went out was kind of neat with how the doctor had put in this tooth that was filled with poison, so that way when he bit down on it, it released it to everybody in the room. It was irritating that it didn't get a certain person. So far, I keep describing it as interesting. Like, I'm interested, the world's neat, the little details are interesting. I can't say I'm in love with the story yet. So I finished part 2, and I don't really think I talked much, if at all, about Paul, and so I'll do that now. Paul's character, it's described at the beginning that, you know, growing up on Caladan, that he didn't even have other, like, friends or playmates. He really only had his instructors and his parents, and as we're with him and in his thoughts, there's really, the only thing to talk about is his thoughts as he's focused on this terrible purpose, as he describes it. He's so preoccupied that I really don't think we get to see much of his personality. He, for every sign, is pointing to him as being this chosen one character. He kind of fits the mold for this prophecy, but he very much does not want to fit the mold. He sees what's coming, kind of, and he sees how he fits the mold, but he doesn't want to be that, and he knows, he feels like he's something different. He could see the future, or he gets glimpses of the future. He was able to tell his mom that she was pregnant, you know, when he shouldn't have been able to know that information. I feel like this will be hard to adapt because all of this stuff is happening in his head. I feel like a large part of part 2, a large part of this book is him worrying about this, and that's an internal thing, you know, that's all going on in his head. So how are they going to show that unless they do like a narration style thing? Anyway, part 2, we had Paul and his issues, and he and his mom escaped, and in their escape, Duncan died, and they eventually are now with the Fremen, and there's this fight that happens when he's with the Fremen, with Jameis, that, I'm just gonna be honest, I just really didn't care about. It's this character that kind of is new to us. He's a stranger and he's challenging him, and I hope I don't sound cold-hearted when I say I didn't really care. There's also been a couple more worm sightings, and Paul had seen some of the Fremen riding on the backs of them, and it just immediately made me think of the SpongeBob episode with Wormy. But no, that wasn't Wormy. Wormy was the butterfly. I'm thinking of the Alaskan bullworm and how they use their paper clips and the string to to get on the backs of it. So I have finished the book, and I have time to talk about part 3. What's going on back there? Hey, no scratching. Hi. Anyway, we start out part 3, or book 3, with a time jump. I said jump right as he jumped off the desk. I love that. A 2-year time jump with 2 new kiddos. There's Paul's son that he has with Cheney, and Paul's sister. I'm going to talk more about her in a moment, because first off, when we jump back in, we are with the character Baron, and it was an immediate reminder too, like what's going on with him. It was a reminder of what a pedophile he is. He has a preference for young boys, and basically I was looking forward to seeing his death. I can't believe it came at the hands of Paul's sister, Aaliyah. She is strange. She is like a little 2-year-old girl. I'm pretty sure it's a 2-year time jump, so I think she's about 2 years old, and she talks and acts and can walk even like an adult, and with the knowledge beyond everyone else because of what, like the knowledge of all the past Reverend mothers because of what Jessica did. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes down right at the very end. It kind of all happens very quickly. When I believe they'd captured Aaliyah, they even mentioned, what was it? She had commanded some, it said this child here was in command of one of the attacking groups. It's just the imagery of this, and she had said, even you cannot do that, my brother. I find it an interesting play. And oh yes, I've killed our grandfather, the demented old Baron. He had very little pain. I think I'd say that she was, for me, the most interesting thing of the last part, and maybe even of the entire book. I just realized I didn't talk about my thoughts overall. And so overall, if I had to describe it in one word, it would be a word that I think I've said multiple times already, which is interesting. I was interested in it. The world, the themes, let's see, like the themes of the scarcity of resources like water and the inequality that creates, all of the politics and the scheming, kind of this question of if you can avoid a prophecy. That's kind of, I felt like, what Paul was dealing with. And also the Fremen, you know, they live in a very harsh environment, but they are so underestimated. Like, they are excellent fighters. The fact that they live in such a harsh environment that they're able to adapt, they're kind of resilient and they're tough. But still, despite this, and I'm happy I read it, all those things I just mentioned right now, I think that would be cool to have discussions about, and I appreciate that, but I wasn't that invested in the story. It wasn't something, it just wasn't something I was all that invested in. I just wanted to see how it would end, really. And I'm not sure, like, even, you know what, something else that I realized is I'm a big annotator. I love, you know, underlining and leaving tabs and stuff. And I did annotate this one, but oftentimes for me, a sign that I'm not the biggest fan of the writing is when I don't have that many annotations. And I noticed there wasn't as many in this. Like, there were some notable quotes and statements, but I don't know, just there's something that wasn't, like, I was just not that attached to this story. Now that I finished, I'm able to, like, I've allowed myself to look at other reviews now because I know what's going on. A very common thing that I keep seeing is from fans of the book and the series is saying that you gotta give it a couple books, that you really see what the author was setting up here. You really see that in book like 3 or 4. On one side, I completely get that, and I think sometimes that's the fun of a series. Like, you see everything build up, and it just gets bigger and grander, and you see what the author is doing. But on the other side, I feel like a book should stand on its own. That you shouldn't have to read several books in order to feel like it paid off, to feel like you enjoyed it a lot. Like, just off of this book alone, I don't know. I see that a lot. I finished it feeling like, okay, I saw how the plot ended, and that was that. It was kind of, it didn't leave that much of a mark on me, despite the fact that I liked the themes and the discussion. So it bums me out that I didn't love it as much as I did. I really would like to know where you fall, though. Have you read this and you loved it? Have you read it and you didn't like it at all? Or are you somewhere in the middle? I would love to know your thoughts on this. So, the movie. I realized as I got closer to its release that I was gonna regret not seeing it in theater if I ended up liking it. So kind of last minute, I got some tickets to go and see it in IMAX around 10 o'clock on Thursday night. I never saw a trailer before I watched it because I realized I knew I was gonna watch it no matter what. So I was fine with, I was just like, might as well just leave it all to be a surprise. I guess just quickly, overall, my thoughts were, I liked it, didn't love it. In many ways, I actually feel the same way that I did about the book. Like, it interested me. As the days go on, I think about it more. I'm feeling a little more mixed about it, but I did enjoy seeing it in the theater, especially in an IMAX theater. But getting into more details, let's get the stuff that I really liked out the way first. The obvious one that I think most people can agree on is that this movie looks beautiful. The cinematography is gorgeous, but also it feels massive. Like, I remember looking at it, the ships and the landscapes, everything just looks enormous. The scale of everything, all these great big sweeping shots that look really beautiful, and the design of everything, like the costume design. There were several moments where I was just sitting there thinking, they look so great. Everybody's suits look nice. They all look nicely tailored, and this is where the IMAX, seeing it in IMAX really popped here. But the use of the voice, I have since watching it in theater, I've watched some of the scenes on my laptop, and it doesn't even compare. The way the voice sounds compared to hearing it in an IMAX theater where the sound is just insane. And I thought that both the Duke and Duncan really stood out to me as characters. I thought that they were great. Their actors did great for their characters, and it's such a shame that the good characters that we like have a bad fate. But on that note, both of those characters I thought went out in a very epic fashion with the Duke's you know, tooth poison scene, and then with Duncan's letting them, you know, kind of holding them back while he let Paul and his mom run away. On to what I didn't like. I wish I could better put my finger on it, but the best I can say is that it was something about the flow of the movie. I felt like some things kind of happened very quickly and then others didn't. I felt like some parts of the movie that seemed very important didn't really get the time that they deserved, and then it was the opposite. What am I trying to say? I really have trouble describing exactly what I mean. My guess is that to those who haven't read the book, that certain things, maybe some little details and information kind of went over their head, and so when another scene came in, it was like, oh, why is this happening? Oh, this next thing I'm going to say I didn't care for, I'm bracing myself for the dislikes, because here we go. I like a Hans Zimmer score as much as the next person, but I don't know if this one did it for me, because it was definitely very loud and intense and dramatic sounding. It wasn't really a memorable score. If there was one moment, I think there's this guy playing bagpipes, and then the score kind of comes on top of it, and I thought, I like where that's going. But looking back, the music from this wasn't that memorable, aside from the fact that it was very loud and intense. And I should mention I did see this with my sister and her friend, and neither of them have read the book, and they enjoyed it a lot. They really enjoyed it. As an adaptation, I think it was pretty good. I do question where they cut off the movie, or what they chose to include. I am a little surprised that they went as far as the fight with Jameis, because I don't feel like that was the best place to end it with that, because it gave it a very anticlimactic feeling for me, because it's this person that we don't know, it's a stranger, so it's kind of like, why do we care? And the fight, if I'm being honest, wasn't all that. So I wonder if it would have been better to cut it off before that. You know, once they're escaping and with Duncan going out, I feel like that would have been a good place to cut it off. Or maybe even like right as they're found by the Fremen, then it cuts off right there, I don't know. But then that would also take away from the fact that they already only have such little of Zendaya in this movie. Like she's really only there in those brief little visions and then a little bit at the end. So if they didn't have that, they'd hardly have her in this movie at all. And from the marketing, you could tell that they really want you to know that Zendaya is in this movie. Oh, of course, the first worm appearance with getting the crew off of the crawler, or the spice thing before the worm came and ate it up. That was all. I thought that whole scene was really good. And then also, lastly, I think I'll mention, I love how they made the Baron look with his floating devices. Those are my thoughts on the movie. I'm happy I saw it in IMAX theater. I thought it had some really good scenes, but overall it's still not something that I'm like blown away by or is a new favorite. In a way, I feel a lot like I did with the book. I would really love to know your thoughts on the movie. I want to know your thoughts on the book if you've read it. I want to know your thoughts on the movie if you've seen it. And I'll leave you off with this, I don't know, question, discussion, whatever. There's definitely pros and cons to reading the book before seeing the movie. The pros to me is that you can envision it yourself before the actors kind of take place in your mind. For me, I can't undo it. Once I see the actors, I pretty much cannot picture my own characters. And then a con of reading the book before seeing the movie is oftentimes it can feel like a disappointment. You know the quote, like the book is always better than the movie. For me, I feel like the pro outweighs the con. I still prefer to just like envision it myself before seeing the movie. Do you prefer to read the book before or after an adaptation? And I'll also leave a hint that the next video I think will be like this. I read and watched might be Blade Runner, because I've never read. It's somewhere right here. Wow. That was extra for no reason, but I have yet to read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and that's the basis for the Blade Runner movies, which I have not seen. I just thought I'd throw that out there because I do know that the director of Dune also did Blade Runner 2049. I'd like to get that video out maybe later this year or early next year, and maybe if anyone out there who is in the same boat who has never read this book or seen the movies, maybe you want to pick it up around now too, and we can kind of be virtually doing it at the same time. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye.